Let's get some more analysis on the whole situation in Ukraine, and we can cross to Berlin and speak to Ukraine expert Sergej Sumlenny, who is the former director of the Heinrich Böll Foundation in Kyiv, and as I said, an expert on Ukraine. Thank you so much for joining us. We've covered lots of different angles already before crossing to you, so difficult to know where to begin, but why don't we start by looking at the situation on the ground, since we just had that report there on the situation in Kharkiv. As far as you're concerned, what have the main developments been on the ground during the last couple of days?
Yeah, thank you for having invited me. Well, we have now three major developments in Ukraine. First is the continuation of Russian offensive in the line between Kharkiv and Mariupol. Let me say, it is about like the line of 400, 500 kilometers, and about 100 kilometers to the south of Kharkiv. Russians try to go straight to the west and piercing through Ukrainian defensive lines next to the city of Izium, where a big military air base is located, cut the connection between Kharkiv and the southern Donbas and central Donbas, and encircle Ukrainian troops. As far as we know up to date, Russian attack is massively supported by artillery, with a lot of tanks, with a lot of infantry fighting vehicles, but has not succeeded yet. Ukrainians have claimed to destroy today up to 40 Russian tanks and up to 50 Russian infantry fighting vehicles, which is actually the whole regiment being wiped out. So we have intense fighting in the area, and they will continue for sure for the next days, because Russians intensively use artillery, and that is their last chance to achieve a huge victory before the so-called Victory Day, 9th May. Which is, of course, very important for Vladimir Putin. The second development is the continuation of the genocide in Mariupol, where Russian troops continue to bomb the last civilians who are hiding in the shelter in Azovstal. And what Vladimir Putin has told today, we all heard it, it's ridiculous, because, of course, Ukrainian civilians are hiding in the shelter in Azovstal because they know what happens to Ukrainian civilians who got captured by Russians. They got raped and killed and tortured, and they don't want to have this destiny. So it is the last stronghold. There are very few chances that the Azov battalion and other defenders of Azovstal will be able to hold for the next days or weeks before the city will be liberated. So it is really a humanitarian catastrophe which we are facing there. And the third major development is maybe a Russian attempt to destabilize Transnistria, the region in Moldova, which borders to Ukraine. Transnistria is a breakaway region occupied by Russia on the border between Moldova and Ukraine. And Russians obviously want to use this region as an attack position for the backyard of Odessa. But this is a highly risky maneuver, which most probably not be successful for Russians. But obviously they want to push also there.
Okay, so lots of different geographical areas you've described there. And I'm just wondering, in terms of helping the Ukrainians to achieve their objectives against the invading forces, we saw that show of solidarity in southern Germany today. How significant are the announcements that were made in Ramstein, notably on the subject of military aid?
Well, I would put it that way. I will not believe that Germany has sent German tanks or air defense tanks to Ukraine before I see them shooting down Russian planes. Like Olaf Scholz, the Chancellor of Germany, has said many times, Germany delivers something. Then at the end, he just put the most important pieces of equipment out of the list. And there is a huge lobby within the Social Democrat Party, which is one of three ruling parties in Germany, to deliver nothing to Ukraine. So as soon as Germany delivers and the delivery goes to Ukraine, I will believe it, but not before. We see that Germany is under massive pressure from the NATO allies, from the US up to Czech Republic or Poland. And France delivers also artillery, or at least promised to deliver artillery to Ukraine, which is a very good sign. And only Germany delivers minimum and in the last moment. This must be changed because Ukraine is fighting for every single nation in Europe, and we must not make illusions. Like any region which is captured by Russians suffers from the terror of unseen scale since World War II. We know mass graves are being found in the liberated areas. We know that women are being mass raped, like the youngest women who have been raped, girls who have been raped are 10 years old. It is like a system imposed by Russian army. We know that there are killings of civilians, mass killings of civilians, etc. So this is terror. This must be stopped. And as more weapons the West, the collective West, sends to Ukraine, the sooner it will stop. And we must not fall into the blackmail by Vladimir Putin, who threatens now the world with the nukes, because he knows that when we have fear, he may push further. But as soon as we show our resilience, he stops, because he's afraid. He's not a fool. He doesn't want to lose this war. He doesn't want to die. He will find a compromise. He will try to find a compromise. And of course, he will not use the nuke as soon as we demonstrate that we are resilient.
Yeah, I mean, it doesn't seem like Western leaders are taking those warnings of the possibility of the Third World War or nuclear weapons particularly seriously. Do you interpret the fact that those warnings were made in the first place as being perhaps a sign of desperation? Because, I mean, anyone can make these threats, and you wouldn't make the threats if things were going well on the ground, would you?
Of course he is desperate. He believed he will crush Ukraine within 3 days, at maximum, at the top. Like Russian plans clearly foresaw the capture of Kyiv in the best case scenario within 24 hours, and in worst case scenario within 72 hours. We are now in the 62nd day of this war. The Russian army has already lost 150% of its personnel compared to 10 years in Afghanistan. Like they have lost 14,000 in Afghanistan in 10 years. Up to date, they have lost almost 22,000 personnel in Ukraine, and they haven't captured any major city except of Kherson. They haven't managed to capture Kharkiv, 40 miles from the Russian border. They haven't managed to capture Chernihiv, 20 miles from the Russian border, or Sumy, 20 miles or 40 miles from the Russian border. No objective has been achieved. We see this solidarity from the West. The best weapons have been sent to Ukraine, and even without air superiority, which Ukrainians need a lot, Ukrainians have managed to stop Russian army. So, of course, Vladimir Putin is desperate. You can compare his statements on the first day of the war, when he called Ukrainian army to revolt and to kill Zelensky or arrest Zelensky. And now in his meeting with Gutierrez, he says, "Okay, we are now ready for the talks." Of course, he's desperate. I would be not only desperate in his place, I would be really scared for my life.
Okay, well, thank you very much for sharing your expertise with us. Sergej Sumlenny, thank you very much for joining us on France 24.
Thank you very much.